আসসালামু আলাইকুম এন্ড ভেরি গুড ইভিনিং। যুক্তরাজ্য সহ পৃথিবীর যে যেখানে বসে এনটিভি ইউরোপের রেগুলার প্রোগ্রাম কমিউনিটি ম্যাটার্স দেখছেন, আপনাদের সবাইকে শুভেচ্ছা সহ স্বাগতম। বরাবরের মতো আজকেও আপনাদের সাথে আছি আমি আদনান পাভেল। আপনারা যারা রেগুলারলি কমিউনিটি ম্যাটার্স দেখেন, আপনারা জানেন কমিউনিটি ম্যাটার্স আপনাদের অনুষ্ঠান, আপনাদের নিয়ে অনুষ্ঠান। এই অনুষ্ঠানে আমরা সবসময় চেষ্টা করি এমন সব গুরুত্বপূর্ণ টপিকে কথা বলতে যা কিনা ব্রিটিশ বাংলাদেশি কমিউনিটি বা বাংলাদেশি কমিউনিটির উপর প্রভাব ফেলছে বা ওদের ভবিষ্যতে প্রভাব ফেলতে পারে। আজও তার ব্যতিক্রম নয়। আজকে আমরা কথা বলবো উইমেন ইন লিডারশিপ, এই টপিকে আমরা কথা বলবো এবং এই টপিকে কথা বলার জন্য উপস্থিত আছেন আমার হাতের ডান পাশে আফসানা বেগম। শি ইজ জেনারেল সেক্রেটারি টাওয়ার হ্যামলেটস লেবার পার্টি এবং উনি ইকুয়ালিটি এবং ডাইভার্সিটি অফিসার, কুইন মেরি ইউনিভার্সিটি অফ লন্ডন। থ্যাংক ইউ সো ভেরি মাচ Afsana Appa for joining us today. So today we'll talk about women in leadership, particularly women coming from our background, from ethnic minority, what sort of challenges they face, and what are the opportunities out there for them. So thank you so very much for joining us today. Thank you.
Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you. সুপ্রিয় দর্শক, আপনাদের যদি কোনো প্রশ্ন থাকে উমেন ইন লিডারশিপ এই পার্টিকুলার টপিকে, ইফ ইউ হ্যাভ এনি কোয়েশ্চেন, ডু ফিল ফ্রি টু গিভ আস এ কল। স্ক্রিনের নিচে যে ফোন নাম্বারটা আছে সেই ফোন নাম্বারে আপনারা ফোন করে আমাদের সাথে কথা বলতে পারবেন আপনার যদি কোনো অভিমত থাকে বা কোনো প্রশ্ন থাকে। So Afsana Appa, if I may ask you, if you can give a little bit about your background. I know that you studied politics at Queen Mary University. Yes. Then you are a community activist and you are involved with so many other organizations as well. Right now you are General Secretary of Tower Hamlets Labour Party. You are Equality and Diversity Officer at Queen Mary University of London. So you do hold so many portfolio, so it must be a very busy time for you. So how do you manage doing all sort of stuff, maintaining your personal life, maintaining your professional life? How do you get time to get involved with so many organizations?
I mean, I think it's always a challenge. Time management is something that I'm always learning how to improve on. When there's particular busy times in my timetable, I understand that actually I'm sacrificing some of my personal time that I could be spending with family, with friends, and then I try and make up for it. So when, for example, as an active member of the Labour Party, when we had the local elections in May, leading up to it, I mean, it was incredibly busy. It was almost like a 24/7 operation, really. And I definitely felt the gap in between sort of being able to spend time with family and friends. But I tried to make sure that at least once a week that I was able to go and pop in and see my mum and spend time with my siblings and my family. And that that is something that I definitely realized that I could do better at, and it's a struggle to maintain and keep on top of. I would say right now I don't feel like I have a huge amount of responsibility. I don't have children, for example, but I know that women who have children, who have who are carers, maybe looking after a spouse or a parent, obviously face bigger challenges.
Absolutely.
And I can see that I can see that with siblings, I can see that with friends as well, that they're juggling a lot of priorities, and that's like sometimes on top of a full-time job, for example.
Particularly coming from our background.
Absolutely. Right. And I think that's interesting what you've picked up there, because for women of my background, BME women or Bangladeshi women, for us it's not just we talk about this glass ceiling, but for BME women it's actually a double glass ceiling. Right. It's much thicker.
Absolutely.
For us. And then when you take into other considerations, like other protected characteristics, for example, age, if you're younger, if you're typically older, if you're a Muslim woman, for example, there's many other challenges that you face.
You face more barriers.
Absolutely.
Right.
And I think there's a term that's kind of become a buzzword, and it's called intersectionality, and it's kind of become a trendy word, but actually there are this points towards actually something that's quite serious actually. When you identify as in equality and diversity, as in intersectionality, you're looking at the fact that somebody may have one or more protected characteristics. As I explained, you may be a BME person but also a woman. You may be a Muslim BME woman.
Right.
And those challenges together, each of those challenges put together can actually create a lot of barriers for you.
Right. And that can be very stressful for an individual as well.
Absolutely.
Right. But do you think that our society do support girls if they want to succeed, particularly in our BME community? Do you think there is enough support from in-laws house once they get married, or do you think there is enough support even in their own house?
I think it is heading in the direction.
Right.
That's just anecdotally speaking from sort of things that I have seen in our community. I think it's heading in the direction. I think Bangladeshi women are getting more support
Right.
than previously. But I do also think there's a lot more to be done.
Absolutely.
And I think, as I was saying, you know, for example, if a Bangladeshi woman, for example, is looking after in-laws or her parents, you know, or she's got children, then those will be additional kind of challenges. If you've got a lot of family support, you're more likely to succeed. And actually, I was looking at some research last week,
Right.
and this was from the All Parliamentary Group on employment, female unemployment. And one of the things that they looked into was British, Pakistani and Bangladeshi women. And they found actually that compared to non-Bangladeshi and Pakistani women, so you know, sort of white women who are in employment, the Bangladeshi and Pakistani women actually do have, in some forms, more family support. For example, for childcare or for you know, kind of progressing in their career. So they've got a bit more of family
Support,
backing
right.
and support, and they identify more with like maintaining family relations and family links, whereas with communities outside of the Bangladeshi and Pakistani community or the BME community in general, that it isn't so much of a factor. That said, there is other research as well that points to the fact that
Absolutely. As for example, Bangladeshi women, you know, they are more vulnerable to poverty than any other community.
Absolutely. Bangladeshi women, for example, are, you know, much less represented in the labour market in employment.
Right.
So
and what is the reason for that?
I think it's various different.
Do you think our
contributing
girls, they
factors.
don't have the tenacity to succeed, or do you think the support scheme is not there? What do you think of it?
I think it's a mix of both.
Right.
What I would say is, you know, there's institutional barriers,
Right.
but also kind of barriers we may place on ourselves. So what I mean by institutional barriers is, for example, you know, prejudice, discrimination in the workplace.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I was with a colleague in the Labour Party earlier today, and she mentioned hijabophobia. You know,
Yes,
the fact
yes.
that you get judged straight away by the way you
absolutely.
appear.
And particularly in Europe, considering what's happening in the political spectrum of Europe for the last few years,
Yes.
hijab and Islamophobia is all growing, isn't it?
Absolutely. I think, you know, being a Muslim woman who wears a hijab, you kind of, it's a question for everybody. Everybody wants to kind of debate it, even if they're not somebody who identifies as wearing a hijab, but everyone's got a view on it. And I think that has definitely tackled perceptions of women in leadership, perceptions of women in the labour market, and also kind of maybe perceptions amongst employers when they are recruiting as to, you know, how are they going to deal with this as though it's a problem. I think there's definitely those kind of barriers that do affect Bangladeshi women, Muslim women as well. I think there is another side to it, and I think maybe sometimes we do let ourselves down in terms of not
The
aspiring.
aspiration is missing there.
Aspiration, as you say,
Right.
you know, I do think there needs to be more role modelling, more examples of women, Bangladeshi women in leadership that, you know, can set an example to say this can be done.
Right.
You know, it's possible.
But do you think the mentoring scheme, particularly, say for example, if anyone in our community, if he or she becomes successful, they should inspire other people, they should lead by example, they should create some sort of scheme so that the young people, they can find aspiration, they can find a role model. Do you think that particular mentoring scheme is missing in our community? I mean, once someone becomes successful, they become celebrity, and they don't want to keep in touch with the community, they don't want other people to follow their route. Do you think, you know,
I think
what
we
do you
could
think
definitely do a lot more to,
Right.
you know, have networks among the British Bangladeshi women
Sharing
to
and
support
caring.
each other.
Absolutely.
I'm not saying that there's not support there. I'm sure if we all got together, you know, we'll find naturally that there's support for one another, for each other's projects, for each other's
Absolutely.
careers.
Right.
But there isn't. I haven't seen so far anything that's sort of networking and linking up British Bangladeshi women. There are kind of some schemes that I've seen. For example, I've seen
Right.
like British Bangladeshi Chamber of Commerce for women.
Absolutely.
You know, those things are kind of
Right.
bringing women in business together, for example, which is a great thing, and I welcome
I
that.
think particularly, sorry to interrupt you, I think particularly in men's world, particularly, there are so many organizations that
Yes.
can bring them together, but I think it's lacking in when it comes to women, don't you think?
I absolutely agree with you, and I think one of the things that, you know, is actually quite recognised is, you know, this old boys network that we talk about. which is quite, white and also quite middle class, and male, and it excludes women naturally by its very definition that it's dominated by this one group of people. And I think we need to definitely create our own networks as well. But I do actually like the idea of mentoring each other, supporting each other. I actually have looked quite recently in the last sort of year into reverse mentoring schemes, and actually that can be quite useful. So if you are paired up as with a mentor who is not from your background, but is highly successful in their field or the field that you aspire to, I think that can have its benefits because you can kind of learn some maybe tips and tricks as to how they progress their career. And I think that should be welcome as well, so that we're not kind of working in silos, and just it's great obviously to have like a sisterhood.
We're not just comforted in our own bubble, rather
absolutely, although that is important.
Absolutely. But say for example, we have seen in Labour Party particularly, as you are General Secretary of Tower Hamlets Labour Party, and we know that Tower Hamlets is a very important location for politics particularly. In Labour Party, we do have 3 MPs, those who are all 3 of them, they are women. But do you think there is enough mentoring scheme even in Labour Party, if BME women, if they want to succeed, if Bangladeshi women, if they want to become a successful politician like say for instance Rupa Haq or Tulip Siddiq or Roshna Ali, if anyone wants to become an MP, is there any mentoring scheme for them?
There's definitely initiatives within the Labour Party to, for example.
But how about in Bangladeshi community?
I wouldn't say it's tailored particularly towards BME women, or Bangladeshi women. They're sort of national schemes, and I do think they could be better. I personally think they could be better targeted towards BME women, and within that Bangladeshi women, Pakistani women that are underrepresented in Parliament and so forth. I think it's great that we've got 3 Bangladeshi women MPs, and I'm sure that they have been mentored. I hope they have been mentored, informally and formally to get to where they are. And I think there could be more of that. I think that it would be great to have an initiative, for example, that is targeted specifically to the BME community by Labour nationally, and then that actually takes into account that actually BME women are more disadvantaged than BME men and non-BME men as well. So to take that into consideration would be great. And I hear that there is going to be something coming from the Labour Party nationally towards that effect, where there's going to be a bigger initiative to try and support aspiring BME Labour Party members, for example, to reach Parliament or to represent.
Absolutely.
Parliament.
I mean, it's not just politics; it's also in other spectrum, as for example, in professional world, in business world as well. I mean, we have Caterers Association, we have other business association that is very much related to our community that supports or that creates some sort of platform for networking for small and medium enterprise.
Absolutely.
But if say for instance, if anyone wants to open a business, if a woman wants to open a business, but do you think there is support for that?
I wouldn't say there is support in a formal sense. Again, maybe there are some places where people are able to sort of speak to each other and get informal support. But I think you're right. I mean, I think there are some associations out there that are not representative as much of women, and there could be more done to that effect. It probably requires maybe Bangladeshi women who are successfully running a business to maybe take that step, because they've experienced maybe the ups and downs of running a business, and maybe they're in a better position.
Absolutely, and they would be able to share their experience with other women, and other women they would be able to benefit. That's the main theme of networking, isn't it?
Absolutely.
So you think there can be much more can be done?
I think so. I think there's definitely much more that can be done to support aspiring Bangladeshi women in going for wanting to go into business or other
supporting
fields.
each other.
I definitely think so. There are some schemes out there that are kind of profiling and recognizing the contributions, the efforts, the success of British Bangladeshi people.
Thank you very much. We will talk more in detail about success and other spectrum. We do need to go for a quick break. সুপ্রিয় দর্শক, আজকে কমিউনিটি ম্যাটার্সে আমরা কথা বলছি উইমেন ইন লিডারশিপ। আমরা আপনাদের সাথে আরো কথা বলবো। আমরা যাব একটা বিরতিতে, আমাদের সাথেই থাকবেন।